All right, welcome to another edition of Labor Live at 5 or Labor Live AF. And look, y'all, we got to cover a couple things here. All right, number one, when we were advertising this today and getting the word out, and we put like join us for Labor Live at 5, and I start getting questions like, "What time is it?" I'm like, "Dude, it's like at 5, okay? Labor Live at 5 every Monday night at 5 o'clock is when we gather and we feature frontline workers who are doing things to make their community better. That's what we do. Labor Live at 5 or AF, depending on your generation. Okay. And then I get a question from Ed Sills, who should know better. Ed says, "What time are y'all taping it?" And I'm like, I think he was joking, because the thing about it is it's Labor Live at 5, right? Labor Live at 5, which means that it's live. Like, we're working without a net here. So there is no taping, although this is available to see on our website as we go down the road. So that said, there are 29 days, y'all, until the beginning of early voting in Texas. 29 days. And that's when we get our chance to show the world that we want to take Texas and this country in a different direction. And we do that by voting. We do that by talking to our members about voting. We do that by talking to our neighbors about voting. We do that by talking to our coworkers about voting and what's at stake. And obviously there is more than we could ever imagine at stake in this election. But one of the things that's going on in terms of voting in the age of COVID is that poll places are not as accessible because of the virus. Schools, I understand, are not going to be accessible. Poll workers are not as accessible. And so the labor movement is part of a national effort to get folks to commit to being part of the process to keep the polls open. We're going to talk tonight with two folks who are integrally involved in that. Bonnie Mathias is out of Communication Workers of America, Local 6215, is working with the Democratic Party on these issues in Dallas. She is also an animal lover, an animal rescuer, and we first met because she also puts on beauty pageants. And so I've been trying to get her off my back to not keep making me be in beauty pageants, but that's what she does. Bonnie, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you being with us tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. And Steve Ruiz is here from the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 20 in Fort Worth. And Steve has been working with the Labor Council up there on a project to make sure that the polls are open. So thanks both of you for joining us tonight. And thanks both of you for your work. We appreciate it very much. All right, so let's start with Steve. No offense, Bonnie, I'm gonna start with Steve. And Steve, how did you get involved in this? Tell us how you learned about this issue of having enough people to work on the polls.
Well, so last year we started a group, a new committee underneath the county party that is a function of the Labor Council. So it's the Labor Relations Committee, and we work in an advisory capacity to the county chair. And so when they called us and said, "Hey, look, when COVID first started happening, right after the primaries, like, look, we had a really hard time recruiting poll workers." Of course, they had the other avenues that they were using in order to get people in. But they still had a lot of people that at the last minute, because of all the changes with the health department in the county, and then Abbott making, just edicts on Twitter or wherever saying, "Hey, we're not going to support this, not going to support that," that the election workers and the judges that historically had been manning the polls were dropping out. And so we started placing calls to different union members that were already out of work. And then in one case, we got up to the primary runoff, and 2 days before the election was happening, we got a call that they were going to have to shut it down for election day. They were going to have to shut down a polling location because everybody called in and said, "We can't work." I think there was one person who was exposed, not from working the elections, but from a different family member. And so everybody just got nervous and had to quit. We wound up calling one of our labor organizations, Coalition of Labor Union Women, from the Grand Prairie Arlington chapter, and we manned that poll overnight, got everybody signed up, got them trained. They went through the whole training online in just a few hours and got that done. And we were signing our timesheets, that next morning. So it's a really good way for us to bridge that relationship and to help out all of our working families that are in our counties.
Yeah, because like we were talking, like one of the clear voter suppression tactics that's going on here is closing polling places, particularly in communities of color, and using the lack of available poll workers as one of the bottlenecks. And so, to the extent we can keep that bottleneck open, like you just showed and demonstrated in that one case, that's a real impact we can have on this election process. Bonnie, what's involved in being a poll worker? Like, what does a poll worker do? I mean, I know I always so appreciate it. Like when I go there and they turn the thing upside down so I can sign it. They make sure I get my sticker. But like, how hard is it? What do they need to know? What's the process for getting involved in it?
Well, you have to apply first
Okay,
and foremost.
it's
So,
important.
and in Dallas County, you can apply at Dallas County Votes, which is the county side of it, or you can go to Dallas Democrats and .org and apply there. Most people, if you contact your county elections department, they can tell you what to do. Also, contact the party of your choice. Of course, I'm going to encourage you to contact the Democrats, but
Right.
contact the party of your place because we need workers, both Democrats and Republicans. In Dallas, our precincts are set on a gubernatorial election. So if that precinct voted red, then the judge is going to be a Republican. But we in Dallas are making sure that all of our Republican-controlled precincts have got a strong Democrat as the alternate judge.
Got it. So Bonnie, like how involved is the training that folks have to go through?
To be a judge or an alternate judge, it's 6 hours and it's hands-on. So you learn how to do the equipment, you learn how to use the equipment, and they give you great handouts to follow. It's really, really a good process. To be a clerk, it's a 3-hour training. There is hands-on training at the elections department, and they also will be offering some virtual training that they can do online. And I encourage you to sign up. In Dallas, the early vote workers make $12 an hour, and that's a raise since last time from $8 an hour. And on election day, clerks make $16 an hour, and judges make $18 an hour.
And so, do they want people to? I mean, so this is to staff early polling locations as well as election day is what you're looking for?
Yes, and the deadline for early vote applications is the 17th.
Okay.
We are tomorrow's commissioner's court. We're going to be there begging for an extension, but we don't know if it's going to happen or not. So right now it's the 17th. You've got to get those applications in because there's a background check involved because you're going to become an employee of the county.
Got it. So just to be really clear, experience today, we're talking about September 17th, which is Thursday, is
Yes.
the deadline for people to get their applications in. And if they go to to this website, which is powerthepolls.org/AFL-CIO, that will tell you all the things you need to do and all the places you need to go in order to accomplish that task. I know a lot of people are hurting out there. A lot of people are still struggling with the economic impact of COVID. We're not talking about a lot of money here, but we're talking about something coming in. And we're also talking about something that is a concrete contribution to our democracy. Steve, as you work with the Labor Council in Tarrant County, and just first, major props to the Tarrant County Labor Council and what y'all are doing and kicking ass there. And the level of work that's happening in that Labor Council is amazing. How do you talk about it? What's the best way to talk about this program that you have found resonates with union people when you talk to them?
First off, if they're unemployed right now, whether it's new just in the most recent waves or they were part of that original 30 million people that experienced a displacement from the COVID situation, money, quite honestly, there's a really unique thing that happens when you earn $1. through normal means of wages, it offsets your unemployment payout. So what it does is it leaves more money in that kitty for you. So if you go work these elections on the early voting, you're going to get 2 weeks of pay from the elections office. It's going to offset that unemployment and leave it there for you for a little bit further on down the road. Because let's face it, we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right now, we have no idea to predict what Abbott or anybody else is going to do, what the county officials are going to do in regard to our unemployment. So that's how we look at it. And I sell it with that point. The second thing, because money is always the first thing anybody wants to know about. How much do I get paid? Well, trading dollar for dollar, I think it's worthwhile. But then more importantly, this is an opportunity for people to do election work that is more focused on the civics portion of it rather than the politics. So we need both Republicans, we need Democrats, we need independents. I need anybody who wants to go and help to make sure that our fundamental right to vote is being managed and being available to everybody, because the last thing we want to do is have a shortage of poll workers be the reason that somebody's vote is not counted. That's not a good preservation of democracy, in my opinion.
That's a really great point. And thank you, Stephen. The way you phrase that is that, yes, there are partisan issues that we're fighting for. We're fighting for workers' issues in this. Those, in my view, aren't partisan either. But there's a piece of this election that I think all of us, both Democrat, Republican, Independent, and everything, have a stake in. And that's to make sure that our democracy works. That's to make sure that when people want to cast a ballot, there is a place for them to do so safely. The more poll places we can keep open through having enough poll workers, the more choice people have, the less crowded they are, and the more opportunity people have to vote safely. So this is not a partisan effort. This is an effort to actually make our democracy work. The way you phrased it was really great, Steve. Thanks. And Bonnie, what is the county itself doing to get the word out on this?
The county has been recruiting as well as the parties. It's amazing to me. All of us are putting the word out on Facebook and Twitter and all the other ways that we can. And the party is getting 15 to 20 applications a day. And it's enormous.
How many do you need? How many do we need? Like in Dallas, for example.
We have calculated that we need 1,400 workers for election, early voting and election day, because you don't.
And that's just in Dallas?
Yes, that's just Dallas County.
Wow.
Dallas County. We have 60 early vote locations, including American Airlines Center. There will be 50 machines set up at American Airlines Center with two of the things to put the ballots in. That's going to be fabulous, because the social distancing, I've had so many people express fear and trepidation about not just working, but going to vote. And I am very proud. Dallas County has really stepped up. There's a whole protocol, safety protocol on their website. Talks about what's safe for voters, what's safe for workers. Unfortunately, the governor will not put a mask mandate in place. So we will have masks available if someone shows up without one. If they insist on not wearing one, some of the judges have set up a separate polling place, a separate booth close to the door, away from everyone else, and that person will be directed to that booth. And
right. So as usual, the local folks are putting safety first and making sure that despite the inaction from above, we can get the job done like that. Steve, as you've talked to folks, have people expressed concern around safety, and how have y'all handled that in Fort Worth?
Yes. So, some of the people we've talked to around the state, polling locations have even gone so far as placing up, either placards or, whatever between all of the polling systems, all the machines, if they're within that 6-foot barrier. And then if they can, they've actually spread them out even further. What was really nice was that one of the locations we were able to stage up, and my son had actually worked with me. He's a high school student, which brings up another point. You can be 16 or older as long as you have parental permission to work an election site. And in some cases, your county party may even sign a letter for you to count towards community service if you need that. So that's a really good thing because it falls under civic.
For scouts and stuff like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's a good thing. But what we did was actually set up a table at the doorway entrance, and we found that the greater majority, 95% or better, were actually using the hand pump station to sanitize and get themselves situated beforehand. And then they were following the rules, all the markers that we put down on the ground for the 6-foot marks. Everybody was pretty decent about it and following the rules. I don't think anybody wants to put anybody else in an uncomfortable position. And when we did have, I think, one person out of the entire day that we were doing voting, one person that had a complaint about it, and that was it. And but even then, there was a complaint that we weren't going far enough to try to protect it. I'm like, well, we've sanitized the door every few minutes and do all of that. But I think it was great. Overall, the concerns are, how safe is it? Is there, are the workers going to be wearing a mask? Are they going to be sanitizing? And the answer is yes. My personal job, I took it upon myself, and we went ahead and assigned people throughout the day, was actually wiping down the equipment between voters.
Yeah.
And they want to get in there really quick, so you've got to be fast. But it took me back to working restaurants days, and having to clean tables and bust them and get them done quickly.
That's good. That is good. And I see Secretary Treasurer Garbai posts there. That's a great point. That just learning about the election, being part of it, is a really big deal for young kids. So folks out there watching who are in high school, or if you have kids that are in high school or college or whatever, it's a great opportunity to come together and see how elections really work, what goes on behind the scenes, all the people that it takes to make our elections run smoothly. And it's still amazing to me that that so much has to happen on the local level, and that it varies so much from community to community. And so it's a place where we can really take ownership of this process by contributing to making sure that it works for everybody. So as we look towards the election, people know that they need to apply by the 17th. Is there any piece of this that we're missing, Bonnie, that you feel like people really need to know?
There's rides available if people need transportation to the polls. In Dallas, we have rideshare2vote.com. That's a good one. I think last year, Uber and Lyft did free transportation, round trip transportation for voters. That's something that we're working on. Something that's really important that we really have to hammer home to everyone: don't stop at the top. You have to vote that entire ballot. You can't go in there anymore and hit that key and just walk away. You have to mark every single thing on that ballot. Yeah,
we're going to be covering that as we head down the road here, because this will be the first election statewide that we haven't had straight ticket voting. So people are going to really need to make sure their choices are recorded. Steve, is there any thing about this poll worker program that you feel like you want to point out?
Yeah. So right now, I know that they need 1,400 over there in Dallas County. Tarrant County is looking for an additional 900 workers on top of the 325 judges that they've already hired. So we need that extra 900. But I think the biggest important part is go ahead and get listed early. You don't want to be like we were, having to try to fill out paperwork at the last minute and then experience technical difficulties or whatever. We want to give enough people to be on that list that should something come up, maybe they have the unfortunate accident on the way to the polling location, can't get there to work. They need to have alternates to be able to call. So if we just stop as soon as we hit, we hired enough, then they have no additional backups to call. And
Right.
and that would have been a horrible situation. And I'm glad it worked out for us, but that could have gone differently. The second piece is that going there and actually working the polls gives you an entirely new perspective about what happens to make that day successful. Whether it's getting all of the blank forms printed out or whatever, having to go out there and do a curbside voting for somebody who can't get out of the car because they have mobility issues, or actually helping somebody who's going in and hasn't voted in 20 years and has no idea how to use this tablet thing, and they've got 2 hearing aids and they need the audio assistance. And so, those are all brand new things that like my son was able to experience that being 17 years old and having to watch how many people and how much it means to them to get that vote cast. And it's a piece of knowledge that I felt like was imparted to my son that I hope he carries with him for the rest of his life. But it's an experience I think is worthwhile for anybody, no matter what their age is, if they've never had that before.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. You remind me that, like, every time I go to vote and I see people lined up, to actually how precious people hold their vote and what that means. And we can talk about it all the time, but when you see folks actually there with their clutching their list or their ID, just really ready to go do their civic duty. And so it's really a special thing to observe. I appreciate you bringing that up too. So yeah. So look, y'all, if you can, or anybody, please go to our poll worker website. There it is, powerthepolls.org, and learn whether it works for you, and make sure that we do our part to make sure these elections go off in a way where everybody has a chance to vote. A couple other things I want to encourage everybody. Now, this was really cool, to join our online army. Y'all, we have some amazing tools under our "we can't knock, but we sure can talk" act of getting out the vote. We've determined that it's not safe to send volunteers out to people's houses. People don't want to have people that they don't know walk up on their property right now. And it's not a good situation to put people in. And so we've come up with so many different ways that you can help get the word out, whether it's texting, and we have an amazing texting program. And Wednesday night at 6:00, please join us. Go to our Labor Online, Texas AFL-CIO.org, and sign up to be part of that effort. I did it. I know that Labor Live at 5 starts at 5, but I'm not that much of a technological wizard. And I was texting literally 800 people in the space of a half hour and having real conversations with union members. I encourage you. And Secretary Treasurer Garibay has issued a challenge for this Wednesday. She says that Texas AFT is going to have the most volunteers on Wednesday night. Now, I've heard others say that might not be the case, but we'll see on Wednesday night at 6. If you go to our Labor Online page off of our website and join our Army, we'll get you set up. We're going to be texting people to make sure that people are aware of the voter registration deadlines, that we get everybody who wants a chance to vote. And then finally, we have a really, really, really cool event coming up not this Wednesday, but the next Wednesday, September 23rd. As you know, every year we have our golf tournament, which is our major fundraiser for our membership education and our scholarship program. We weren't able to do that this year, but we have a concert that we're doing online that we're calling Banding Together. We have a series of national acts that are going to be performing for us. And we also have some special guests. I'm going to give you a couple ideas here. We have Robert Earl Keen, big in the American Federation of Musicians, is going to be joining us. Alejandro Escovedo is going to be joining us. Scarface is going to be joining us. The Tiara Girls are going to be joining us. And I was going to hold this one back, but I'm going to just put it out there. Joe Araby is going to come out of retirement and sing for us on Wednesday, the 23rd. So check that out on our website. For y'all unions that are out there listening, we would love to have your sponsorship. This is, we can't be together, but we can certainly band together and enjoy some fellowship and some comradeship together. So encourage people. That's a week from this Wednesday, but this Wednesday is the big online Army challenge that Secretary Garibay has issued to all union people across the state of Texas. Which union is going to show up? So there you have that. So thank you very much to our guests. And I got to give one more thing to you, Bonnie, to just say that, you've been a pioneer in getting the word out through your radio show that you do with Brother Gene Lance on KNON, is it, in Dallas every Saturday morning. So in a lot of ways, we are following in your footsteps. Hopefully, one day when we grow up, we'll be like you and Gene. But in the meantime, we're doing the best we can. But thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you both for your work. Thank you so much for representing the union movement in such a dramatically positive way. All right. So thank you all very much. And we will see you next week, next Monday at 5 for Labor Live at 5. Get it? All right. All right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.